Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live here on SiriusXM. We're streaming over on YouTube. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Kevin Sweeney here with me. I have Xavier legend. Yes, I'm calling him a legend. Kenny Frease is here with me. We're going to be here for the next about 58 minutes and 20 seconds breaking down what actually turned into an entertaining and meaningful day in the Big Ten. We got to talk a little bit about Memphis. We're going to get into some of the insanity that happened on Saturday afternoon as well. Big winners, the big losers, the players of the week, our Sunday superlatives, which is always a fun segment we do at the end of the night on Sunday nights. But we have to start in the Big Ten. And to me, Kevin Sweeney, the biggest story of the day, it wasn't Illinois going into Michigan and winning that game. It was Michigan State and the performance that they had. Once again, we saw Jace Richardson take over down the stretch and make every big play that was needed. He had a step back three that he hit. He had 3 assists in the last 4 minutes that really helped Michigan State pull away from Wisconsin at home. And the Spartans are now a game ahead of Michigan, all alone in first place in the Big Ten. What does this win say for number 8 Sparty?
And the wild thing I would say is it doesn't say a whole lot because they've already proved so much, right? Like this 5-game stretch has been ridiculous, and I don't think I would have changed my mind on this group had they lost today. But, I mean, to go on the road to Illinois and rally after the way that they did, and then turn around and beat Purdue, go to Michigan, win there, go take some punches at Maryland and find a way, and then today go down 13-4. It's like, here we go again. Like this group has a never say die attitude that's just awesome to watch. They have so many different guys that can step up in so many different moments. And as you said, I think the hierarchy is starting to form. I think there's an understanding right now that at the end of games, Jace Richardson's that dude. And he's been great down the stretch. He continues to evolve. He continues to make the right play, which I think is so impressive for a freshman. Like every time, like if he needs to go score, he'll go score. If he needs to go pass, he'll go pass. And he's just been so dang good for this group. And you can question maybe the top tier talent level. You can question a whole lot of stuff with this group, the shooting, et cetera. Like at the end of the day, this group has proven to be one of the elite teams in college basketball. It's time we start talking about them like that.
Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I've liked throughout the whole year with Michigan State is that they can hit you in so many different ways. They have every single night, it seems like it's a different guy stepping up. They're beating you as a team, which I think, especially in these later games in the year, when you get towards the NCAA tournament and you get towards conference tournaments, things like that, being able to come together as a team and win the way that they've been winning, it shows strength for me. It's more consistent than like one single guy going out and scoring 30 points or whatever it is. And then you look at, it's Tom Izzo, man. They had 51 rebounds today. They had 51 rebounds. That's insane. And they made Wisconsin play their style of game. And, it's just like you look at a guy like Tanji, who's been absolutely on fire for the last 5, 6 games, 7 games, whatever it's been. They hold him to 11 points. And, it's just Michigan State basketball, and it's March. So, I'm betting on Michigan State.
Yeah, I think it's this run that they've been on is incredible. There was a point it was right around Valentine's Day, right? It was somewhere in early February where they had just lost at USC and UCLA. And they come home and Mike Woodson gets fired or retires, however you want to phrase it, Sweeney. But then Indiana, after that happens, goes into the Breslin Center and throws a zone at Michigan State, and it looked like Michigan State forgot how to play basketball. And at that point, you're looking at them. They hadn't really played the top of the Big Ten yet. They're 10-3 in the league. They just lost 3 of their last 4, and they have that schedule that you just mentioned: at Illinois, Purdue at home, at Michigan, at Maryland, Wisconsin at home coming up. And I was ready to kind of jump off the bandwagon a little bit. I was nervous. I was worried. And to see them be able to turn this around, this level of performance, what they've been able to do over the course of the last 3 weeks, I've completely reversed course. I'm all the way in. And I think at this point that they are, to me, the very clear Final Four contender in the Big Ten. You can poke holes in everybody else. It's kind of hard for me, outside of the 3-point shooting, it's kind of hard for me to poke any holes in this Michigan State team. And I think Jace Richardson is the biggest difference maker that they have.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. Again, like you navigate this stretch in this way. I think they have to be considered the biggest threat in this league. I also think we probably haven't talked enough about them defensively, right? Like I think there's so much like, oh, can they shoot? Can they? Like this group is playing elite defense right now. 5 straight games this whole run. They've kept everyone under 70 points. Kept a Wisconsin team that all people can talk about is how great they are, how much they can score to 0.85 points per possession. Again, part of that was poor shooting, but I think Michigan State forced you to take a lot of bad shots. Like they've done an incredible job of being disciplined defensively, forcing teams to take shots they don't want to take, and then limiting them to 1 possession. And when they can get stops, then the ball starts rolling, because all of a sudden here comes the transition stuff. Here comes Cohen Carr with the crowd pop dunks. Here comes the transition threes that Aikens hit today. They're a very complimentary basketball team. And when they can get stops, which they have done over this 5-game stretch, they're going to get out in transition. They're going to get out and score in bunches. And they're going to be able to cover for the fact that the 3-point shooting isn't their biggest strength. So, I agree with you. I think right now there's no other team you can put ahead of them in the Big Ten tournament pecking order. I know everybody wants to talk about the NBA players on some of the other teams or the upside of the talent. Like at some point it's March 2nd. Like we've been doing this all year. Michigan State keeps winning games.
Yeah. Kenny, I think I made this argument on Wednesday. I think that this season can be and should be considered among the best coaching jobs, maybe the best coaching job that Tom Izzo has ever done in his career. And I think that his ability in this era of college basketball to kind of keep that continuity and be stubborn about it as well, right? Like there was a lot of pressure on him to like go in the portal. You got to go help. You got to go find some people that can shoot. You got to go find someone that can do this job. You got to get rid of some of these bigs. You know, you missed the eval on some of these guys, and he stayed the course, and he stayed with his guys. And yes, he went out and got Frankie Fiddler, and he got the big fella Zapala, and he added pieces here and there that they needed. But for the most part, like he kind of ran it back with this group that he had last season that was not as dominant maybe as you would expect out of a Tom Izzo team. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for investing in the culture, investing in the program, and investing in the people that he already has in that building.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what you said. The program is winning games. You can plug in a lot of different players for that team, but that's just who he is as a coach. And, you know, one of the best ways that you can make up for a lack of 3-point shooting is to be a really good rebounding team. And to go out and get 13 offensive rebounds today, it really takes a lot of pressure off of your shooters, where if you don't have the best shooting, I think they went like 9 for 27, something like that. You know, if they're able to rebound the ball, play defense at a high level, you can cover up 3-point shooting. I mean, and like I said, it's Tom Izzo. You know, like if you're betting against him in March, and especially with the team he has right now, like nobody jumps off the paper at you points per game wise, offensive production, but he's put together a group of guys that are playing very well together. And, you know, I think it was one of the last shows that I was on when somebody put out that graphic about how they had played only the bottom half of the Big Ten and where are they going to go from here? You know, and I never really felt any doubt that they were going to make it through this stretch. I don't know. I don't think I would have thought they were going to do this well, but you know, I didn't think that they were going to start dropping games like crazy. So I mean, credit to Izzo for sure. But it's the program, man. He's got a machine over there and he's had it for a long time.
Sweeney, when you look at what Michigan State has done in terms of the culture, right? I look directly at Matt Painter and Purdue because I think that there are some very real holes that they had that could have been plugged in the portal, and he didn't do it. But I also think that Paint is kind of building for the long haul here. I think he has his eyes on next season when all of these guys come back. Is this, if you're Matt Painter and you're watching what Tom Izzo is doing right now, is this convincing you that maybe you should go out and add a piece from the portal?
I think I would still. Like, I think at the end of the day, like we saw what Lance Jones could do for your basketball team last year if you were Purdue. Mm-hmm. And I still think with Michigan State, like look, Fiddler's been solid, but like, is this team a lot better if they have John Tonje instead? Like if they nail that eval and get that one extra stud wing scorer, like now we're talking about Michigan State. Not it's like, oh man, they can make a Final Four. It's like, oh man, they're in the top tier. They could go win a national championship, right? Like I'm a big believer that you could still plug holes without being a portal reliant program. And I understand you want to protect the culture. And at the end of the day, like what Izzo has done to get all these guys bought in 100%, like Zapala has helped them this year. He is limited. He is not a perfect player by any means. Zeman Zapala has helped Michigan State get to where they are. They would not be in this position without him. And so I think the model is, if you can retain players, whether Michigan State and Purdue and programs like that have, the model is to do that for sure and then plug those holes surgically. And I think Michigan State has been surgical enough that they've put themselves in a position to go potentially compete for a national championship.
Yeah. All right. I want both of you guys to answer this. Outside of the obvious choice in Cooper Flagg, are there many freshmen that are more fun to watch than Jace Richardson? Kenny, you go first. Sweeney, I want your take too. Like, I love watching this dude play. Like, there's something about one, a guy that's a lefty, two, a guy that understands how to play, like knows how to play the game of basketball, right? Has a high basketball IQ, and three, it's the quick feet, it's the step backs, it's the snatch backs, it's he knows how to create space. He's got a tight little handle. I don't know. There's something so aesthetically pleasing about a left-handed basketball player that can do the things that he could do.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of all of that, freshmen are becoming more and more rare with NIL and the portal and all that stuff. So to see him go out there, have those clutch moments that he's having, and I've talked about Cooper Flagg before, and obviously he's the number one answer for me. But Richardson has been a lot of fun to watch, and if he's able to keep stepping up, and I think that Izzo is really good at making sure that he cultivates that growth in those freshmen and giving them the green light or the comfort to go out and do what they need to do to be the best player they can be. But I think you're spot on. He's a very fun player to watch.
I just love like the maturity and the lack of entitlement that he plays with, right? Like honestly, like if I was Jace Richardson, I would have been pissed the first 2 months of the year that I wasn't playing more. The ball wasn't in my hands all the time because I thought he earned it. I thought he was playing, but like the faith and the plan from Izzo, and I think part of that's having an NBA dad and having an understanding of like what the long game is here, has been great. Like I give him so much credit for that, and I think I give Izzo so much credit for like, look, at the end of the day, like we're at the ride our guys if we're going to go win a national championship, and Jace Richardson's one of our guys. So he's right up there. I mean, obviously some of the pop moments you see from Ace and Dylan at Rutgers are unbelievable. I mean, the Trey Johnson performance earlier in the week, I mean, he's not as dynamic or as explosive as those guys, but the timely plays that he makes, the smooth, the feel, like he is really fun to watch, and a guy who I think if he wants to be, can be a first-round pick come June.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the other game that happened in the Big Ten tonight. Illinois, Sweeney. Illinois put up 93 points in Chrysler Arena. 93-73 win over number 15 Michigan. It dropped Michigan a game behind Michigan State. So we likely will not have a Michigan State game for the Big Ten regular season championship with it all on the line on the last day of the regular season, which a little bit unfortunate, but it is nice to see Illinois get this thing going again. We're going to hear from Kylan Boswell here in just a second, but is this as simple, Sweeney, as simple as Illinois made 14 threes tonight and they couldn't throw the ball in the ocean against Duke on the on last Saturday?
Look, I think the couldn't throw the ball in the ocean was like the most like visible problem. They weren't winning that game, but like they're in it a lot more if they make shots. Like the thing I would say is this: I think when Illinois dominates the glass and when they take care of the basketball and make good decisions, the threes will come. Like when you do things the right way in the game of basketball, you will be rewarded. And they got rewarded today. They made a couple banked in threes. There's a couple shots that like they've been waiting to make for a month and just haven't gone in. But I thought everything started with the energy that Kylan Boswell and Trey White brought to the table, and what they did on the glass, what they did going to the rim, what they did defensively changed like the whole psyche of this basketball team. And then all of a sudden in the second half, once you're feeling good about yourself, here come the jump shots, right? It's a beautiful thing. And look, they're not going to make 14 of them every night, but I think I saw a tweet earlier that they're 16-2 this season when they shoot above 27% from three. Like, we don't need Illinois to be the best 3-point shooting team in the country. We just need them to not suck. They're 16-2 this season when they shoot 27% from three and above. Like, the floors don't suck, and they didn't suck today. So they won a basketball game on the road against a pretty damn good team.
So it's basically be St. John's from three, and you're a Final Four team. Is that what you're saying? Like, Illinois just got to be St. John's from three, and they're going to the Final Four. Kenny, what do you make of the back and forth nature of Illinois, man? They are the ultimate roller coaster team this year.
Yeah, I mean, the number that sticks out for me is they had 20 assists today. When you're able, and the game was I watched the game, and that first half, it was such a tug of war, and nobody really able to break through. And then like Sweeney said, I mean, they start getting going in the second half. They start finding their teammates. You end up with 20 assists in a game. Like, you're playing well as a team. They went into Michigan and beat the brakes off of them. Michigan really never had a chance at once. I think with about 15 minutes in the second half, they sort of took over. And when they're playing well, it is fun to watch them play. I mean, they have 4 people in double figures and 3 more that are close. So, when they're able to play like that, they're going to be a tough out for anybody.
All right, listen, we Sweeney gave him credited the entire win to Kai Boswell. So we are going to hear from Kai. We were able to catch up with him after the game in the locker room from Michigan's Chrysler Arena today. And now let me welcome on to the field of 68 after dark, Kai Boswell, coming off of a 17.9 rebound, 4 assist performance in a 93-73 win at Michigan in Ann Arbor. Kai, you got to feel pretty good about this one, man.
We definitely do. I think today translated from our practices. We've been going really hard. A big emphasis for us was going on the offensive glass. I feel like we haven't really done the best that we could these last couple games. But today I feel like we just crushed that, and I mean that led to our win for sure.
The defensive assignments you're taking on, Danny Wolf at times today, took Cooper Flagg last weekend. Like, how much pride do you take in being able to guard anyone's best player, and how effective do you feel like you've been against those guys?
I would just give that all to Coach Underwood. He's instilled that dog mentality on just each and every day, trying to be the best I can on the defensive end. I feel like for me, that's kind of like where my leadership role is for us as a team. Being out there, being vocal, being able to guard the best guy. A lot of those guys can lean on me and trust me. But yeah, I have no issue taking on the best player, and I'm always going to accept that challenge.
With Trey White playing the way that he has the last 3 games, 6 points, 6 boards, 6 of 10 from 3. Like, what? Obviously, you're fired up for him. What does that provide you guys?
I mean, he is like probably low key our X factor for our team. When he's at top of his game, we're unstoppable. Each and every day, me and him, kind of the vets for this team, just always trying to lean on each other, give each other advice, give each other little stuff. And I think me and him built a great chemistry, and I love that his mentality, trying to be aggressive, on the defensive end, picking up his intensity. What he's been doing in practice and then putting his own work in the gym, it just shows on the court.
You guys finally made some threes today.
Man.
I'm sure that felt good. I mean, what is the feeling like just to see some shots go through with the way you guys have struggled the last couple months?
I mean, for us, that's our biggest thing. Coach Underwood always saying, even we're missing, let them fly. When they're going in for us, it's really hard to guard us. We're always shooting them, catching shit. Look at it right here.
There he is.
How we doing, guys?
What's going on, Brad? How we doing?
Hey, I was going to do something else, but if Jeff was on, but thank God he isn't on. Y'all are doing good. Take care of my guy.
We're trying, man. We're trying. All right, Kai, the $1 million question for you, man. We've seen the highs for this team are as high as anybody in college basketball, and we've seen the lows, and they're not pretty. How do you get that floor higher? How do you find a way to be able to be a little bit more balanced so it's not as much of a roller coaster in game to game?
I think that just starts for us in practice. Our mentality and our intensity after the Duke game. You never want to get an ass whooping like that. Sorry, excuse my language. You don't want to lose it for real. You don't want to lose a game like that. And then I think we all just flipped the switch. We knew what we needed to do to be the best version of ourselves. And for us, I think it starts on the defensive end and be able to crash the glass. And basketball guys, when you play hard and give the effort, they always reward you. And then when the three ball's going in for us, then that's just truly we're unstoppable.
Yeah, I think, and not to cut you off, Sweeney, I think it actually is really impressive. You guys took a beating like that on national television in a game that was hyped up that way and have bounced back immediately with a couple of really impressive wins. It just, I think it takes a certain level of toughness and kind of toughness up here to be able to handle that. Like a lot of teams might, what happened with Duke in the Garden and just kind of roll over and die. And that hasn't happened with you guys.
I think our first practice after that game was probably the best practice we've had the whole year. Just after that game, we've come in with a chip on our shoulder. We just, we don't want to experience something like that, especially when you get into the tournament. It's win or go home. So for each of us, we just try to stay strong mentality wise, and we're good.
Is there anyone in the locker room you felt like really stepped up this week and really laid the tone like this isn't happening again?
Tom, I feel like he's been a big jump for us. He's trying to be more vocal. He's trying to be more of a leader too. Coach Arnold would pull me and him aside and said, us too. A lot of these guys lean on us. They listen to us. And when we're playing our best of our best, I feel like everybody else just picks up their energy and picks up their effort. And that's probably the biggest guy for us.
So the last time we had you on, you shouted out, I think it was Monocle's Pizza, right? And you were looking to get that NIL, that sponsorship.
My dad be out there in the field trying to figure something out. I'm trying to have Monocle's. Hopefully they watch it. I'm trying to get the NIL.
Listen, man, we got your back. Monocles, we could amplify whatever you need. You got to take care of my guy, Kylan Boswell. Congrats on the win, man. Best of luck the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll see you guys at some point here down the road, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
Always good to catch up with Kai Boswell. I want both you guys to answer this question. All right, Kenny, you first. Is Illinois back?
Yeah, the thing is, the answer is yes now. It could be no tomorrow. I don't know, but it's just when they're able to play like this, I don't see a lot of teams in the country that are able to hang with them. You know what I mean? Like obviously, you have your top 4 or 5 teams that are going to be able to beat anybody, but they're really good when they're playing well. You only have to shoot 27% from 3 to win 85% of games. You're doing something right.
Yeah, they're back. Like, how are they not? Like, look, I want to give this group all the credit in the world for navigating the adversity. Like, you lose 3 straight games by double figures, capped by a 43-point loss on national television. Like, that's take your ball and go home for a lot of teams, especially in this era. And the guys in that locker room to continue to fight, continue to believe. And here they are, a week later, feeling a lot better about themselves. I think this group has some staying power here.
It's not an easy thing to do, coming back from a loss like that, coming back from a losing streak. It happened to me a couple times in my career at Xavier, and it takes some real come to Jesus moments with your team and really holding each other accountable.
So I was all in on Illinois in early January after the win at Oregon, right? I kind of got off the bandwagon when they went through that rough spell. I got back on. I said they were officially back after beating Minnesota and then beating UCLA. Then they proceeded to lose 3 in a row, capped off by that beating against Duke. And now, after Duke, I was completely off the bandwagon. Like I was thinking this team might not make the NCAA tournament if things go bad here. But Sweeney, I'm back on. They are back in. I've never been more in on Illinois than I am right now, and I just want to get ahead of the run because I think that is eventually coming here. Listen, we got to get to a break. On the other side, Memphis had a huge win today, and I think it was as impressive of a Memphis performance as we've seen in American play in the AAC season. And I have a theory on why that is. We're going to talk about that on the other side. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. Bet insurance tokens, odds boosts, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two here or there. Be sure to keep your eye out in the app for the Field of 68 specials that we'll be running throughout the season as well. So go download the BetMGM app to sign up today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Kevin Sweeney, Kenny Frease. We are live on SiriusXM Channel 84. And we're streaming over on YouTube. We have to talk about the Memphis Tigers, number 18 team in the country, 24-5, 14-2 in league play now that they have beaten UAB and have really kind of secured their American American Athletic Conference, AAC, whatever it's, I can't remember what it's called, the regular season conference championship here. Sweeney, PJ Haggerty at 25 tonight. Dane Danger has been unbelievable for like the last probably 4 weeks, 16 points, 17 boards. But my take is that Memphis gets bored easily when they don't think that the competition is up to their level. And there's it's one of those trendy cliches we hear about teams, right? They play down to the level of their competition. I think Memphis can get disinterested and disengaged at times. And I think going on the road to UAB, who is better than what their numbers say, with a chance to be able to secure a likely AAC regular season championship. I thought they showed up today, especially in the second half. I thought their guards were terrific. And this is the Memphis team that I've been expecting to see all year long in the AAC. I think we saw them because they were finally playing a game that mattered to them.
Yeah, honestly, I was disappointed in the first half because I was waiting for the same thing you were, right? Which is like, here's all the expectations, all the pressure. And again, credit to UAB, they're not a bad basketball team. But like, this was the Super Bowl of the season. I mean, Memphis remembers that UAB got picked ahead of them in the American preseason, which is still just like a crazy thing to think back to, but that's where we were. And, I give them a lot of credit for the way they played in the second half. I thought Haggerty was unbelievable. When he is playing at that level, he is as unstoppable, I think, as any player in the country, because you just can't keep him out of the paint. And then to add in now the constant post presence with Danger as he has continued to emerge. I mean, you said it, Rob. Like, look at the numbers the last month. I mean, 25-10 against Rice, and 22-11 against FAU, and 20 against South Florida, and 21 against Tulsa. Like, yes, it's South Florida and it's Tulsa, but like, he has absolutely dominated. And that's different from early in the year when they were winning these games. They didn't have the same level of post scoring and post presence they do now. That's a completely different element that I think changes their ceiling in March. Now, again, the consistency has to be there, and I'm not ready to wish away all the ups and downs as just, they don't take it seriously, because at the end of the day, you have to. That's part of the deal. But when they're at their best, like they were in the second half today, that's a very, very dangerous basketball team.
Yeah, the thing I love about them, Kenny, is they have three guards that can all take over games. They have a big guy you could throw the ball to in the post, and he's either going to score, get fouled, get to the offensive glass. They have a glue guy that knows he's a glue guy, Nick Jourdain. and they have pieces off the bench that understand what their roles are. I think that they are very well built to be able to be a team that can win a couple of games here in the NCAA tournament. I don't think they did themselves any favors in AAC play because they've kind of gone from being like hey, they might have a chance to get a top 4 seed to, it looks like they might want to try to avoid the 8-9 game. But
Right.
To me, this is a team that as long as they don't end up getting, I don't know, like Auburn in the second round of the tournament, I think that they can make some noise and get to a second weekend.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing for me when I'm looking at the box score, and I watched some of the game, I didn't get to watch all of it, but to score 88 points with 5 threes, like that's a dominant offense, a dominant half-court transition offense. Like that, I mean, that's really impressive. And what you said about AAC play, I have some experience there. When I was at Xavier, we played in the A10, right? And we're going on the road and we're beating teams like Georgia, we're beating LSU, beating Florida at their place. And then we're going on the road in the A10 and losing to LaSalle or losing to Fordham. Like that definitely is something that it's tough to get up for those games sometimes because, you're in the dog days of the season, you're looking towards the future, all that stuff. So there's definitely something to be said for that. And now they're getting down to the point where these games in their minds, I guess, really matter. You're getting into March and you're starting to see the team that, people were expecting.
Yeah, it's hard because your season kind of gets flipped, right? You play all of these big, really difficult games at the start, and then it's kind of like, all right, now you got to kind of grind through this where you have to be the self-starter. You have to be the program and the guy that kind of convinces yourself to show up for these games. And the other part about it, and Kenny, you can speak to this a little bit, is I do believe that you should be able to overlook losses on the road in league play a little bit more than a typical loss because you're playing teams that know you better. You're playing coaches that have been able to kind of prepare. Like these guys, you play the same coach 3, 4, 5 times in a row. You're going to figure out what they're doing. There's going to be rivalry elements. I think that part of what burns programs like Memphis and maybe Gonzaga and the WCC and some of the teams in the A10 and Mountain West is they lose road games where there's no shame in losing a road game in league play. But if it's a quad 3 loss because the team that you're playing happens to be like 114 in the net or whatever it is, it ends up burning you more than it probably should.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's you're losing a game that you're probably favored by 10, 15 points to win. And I can tell you from experience, I've been through those games where you're just, your team's not doing well collectively. It's not your night. You're on the road playing against George Washington in my case. And, you playing against a guy or a coach that knows our program. I mean, at Xavier, we were running pretty much the same offenses and defenses with little wrinkles and stuff, but all 4 years we're running the same type of system. And then you get to those guys. And then every single game that you're playing on the road in the A10 or in the AAC, that's the biggest game of the year for that team that you're playing against. And that coach has been thinking about that game plan for the entire season. So when you lose a game like that and it looks bad on paper, but at the end of the day, it is more like a rivalry game than anything. It's not like you're just losing to, like Xavier having bad losses last year against, I can't remember. They went on the road to Oakland, who obviously Oakland ended up being better than people thought, but at the time felt like a terrible loss. So, I mean, it definitely is different in league play.
All right, Kenny, I'm coming right back to you, man, because you see that Xavier flag behind you. You got the Xavier sweatshirt on, and I'm assuming you have a Xavier hat on there as well. The Musketeers went out, and they got what we called the biggest win of the day yesterday. They were one of the first 4 out heading into our bracket on Friday. We will be unveiling a full bracket on Fielding the 68 at 5 p.m. on Monday afternoon. You should check that out. It's a really cool production that our crew, Dagan Hughes and Trevor Valise, put together with the bracketology guys, Rocco Miller, Brad Wachtel, and Lucas Harkins. But I think that Xavier, they're either going to end up being the last team in or the first team out. I think that's they are the cut line right now, Kenny. Right. Give us your pitch. Why do the Musketeers deserve to dance? We got to get them in because I think they're a team that can win a game or two. Give us your pitch. Tell us why Xavier has to be in the tournament.
So I think that as the season's gone on, you've seen this team come together in a way that 2-3 months ago, it didn't look like they were having fun. They weren't playing together. They weren't like, it felt like there was just 5 different pieces that were all kind of trying to get their own. And in the last couple months, they've really started to come together as a team. Offensively, they look much more fluid. Defensively, with Dalen Swain is just all over the court, rebounding. He didn't have his best game against Creighton, but I think that he showed, a little bit of what he needs to work on. And that's something that he can take into the offseason next year and get better. But you look at a guy like Dante Maddox, who in the beginning of the season, other than 3 or 4 games, one of them was the UConn game when they took him to overtime, he played extremely well. I mean, the dude, you watch him play against Creighton, some of the threes that he made were insane. I mean, when you put that along with Conwell, who is a prolific scorer, you put that with Fremantle, who is – he doesn't seem like he's scared of anybody in the post, and he's getting you a double-double basically every night. McKnight running the show. Like I said, Swain on offense, defense, transition. John Hughley has been playing better as of late. Knowing his role, he's able to step out and hit some threes, but really just being a big body. When they played against Creighton, he was leaning on Kalkbrenner, making him know that he's there. They were switching those ball screens that Kalkbrenner's getting a lot of lob passes on, and really just blowing up what they were trying to do. And the thing for Xavier, for me, is you look at the 3 losses that really are the difference maker here. UConn, they could have won that game at UConn. They go into overtime. They lose the Marquette game on what probably was a foul when Conwell got tripped. And then they lose the St. John. Yeah, right. But then you have the St. John's game. They're winning by 19. It was, I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and that normally will sit here and blame the officials, but that was an awful, awful officiated game. And for me, when you look at those 3 games, if the ball bounces another way, they could win those games, and they're still the same exact team that they were. And that's the difference between them being talked about as an 8 seed and them being the first out or the last in. So it's just like, for me, when I look at them with the eye test from the last game that they had and then the last couple months, they're a tournament team.
I would tend to agree, and I hope that the committee sees it the same way. I also hope that Xavier does enough here in the last 2 games and in the Big East tournament that we don't have to have this argument about whether or not they deserve to be in. I think if you win, they look like they're going to be the 5 seed, so you win 3 games here, and I think that you will be dancing if you are Xavier. Sweeney, Georgia won at Texas, Indiana won at Washington, North Carolina beat Miami, Baylor beat Oklahoma State. Boise State avoided a bad one at Fresno State. Villanova somehow still on the bubble. They won. Wake Forest somehow still on the bubble. They won as well. Who had the best day of the bubblers on Saturday?
Yeah, well, very quickly, I just wanted to point out on the Xavier front, Fremantle was out for that overtime loss against UConn, and then the 2-point home loss to Marquette. Like, that's something the committee can look at and say, hey, look, those are 2 of the best opportunities they get all year in the league, and they didn't have one of their best players. I hope that's something the committee looks at. As far as biggest performances of the weekend bubble-wise, I don't know how it could be anyone but Georgia. I mean, you go play another bubble team in Texas, and you don't just win, you do it convincingly on the road. Like, that, to me, said a whole lot. It's a letdown type game after an emotional home win over Florida that sort of, gave their season hope again. And for them to come out and play as well as they did, I was very, very impressed. And I do think when you look at their numbers now, all of a sudden they went from like very much on the outs to, I wouldn't say comfortably in, but like in very good shape. I mean, resume metrics average of 37, quality metrics average of 34. You have a win over Florida. You have a neutral court win over St. John's, which is an absolute monster. You just got a big time road win. Like, I think Georgia's in great shape all of a sudden. Now, again, they probably need one more minimum this week. Vandy at home, South Carolina on the road. Probably got to at least split those to feel good. But I think Mike White's team went from, maybe one of the bigger disappointments of the season, losing, I think it was 9 of 11, to now being back right in the conversation after those 2 wins, especially Saturday's blowout.
Yeah, the road win at Texas, that was the one thing they didn't have on their resume. Their best road win was at Georgia Tech, and now they have a road win against a team that, at least on paper, looks like a top 50-ish kind of a team, even if it's, Texas looks like they have kind of quit on their season. Kenny, the 2 teams that really did your Musketeers a favor were Arkansas and Nebraska, who both kind of pooped all over themselves. We'll talk about Nebraska here in a second. Losing to Minnesota at home is that's bad, man. But I do not understand this. How does Arkansas go into South Carolina and lay that big of an egg? You're coming off of a couple big wins, right? You've put yourself in a position where not only are you in the tournament, but we had them comfortably in. We had them as a 10 seed, and you go on the road to the team in last place in the league, and you make 4 field goals in the first half, and you get completely run out of the gym by a team that hasn't run anybody out of the gym the entire season. How is that possible? How is that acceptable?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. Like, I don't get how a team does that when they're in the position that they're in right now, where, like you said, tournament time, all these games tend to matter a little bit more because the committee's going to, I don't know if they still do or not, but it seems like the games at the end of the season mean more. And you go lose to a South Carolina team that's struggled. And, I just kind of look back to it as Calipari. I mean, he's a great coach, and I'm not saying that he's not, but he puts a lot of pressure on guys. And when you're in this NIL era where you're trying to build teams piece by piece and just buying guys, basically, you don't really know how they're going to be on the team and how they're going to deal with that kind of pressure playing for a guy with the resume of Calipari. So, sometimes I think that maybe the moment's just maybe a little bit too big for those guys, or they feel the pressure of wanting to get Calipari to a place where he wants to get to. And I mean, that's all I can really think about, because to go in and lose to a team like that, it's mind boggling to me.
Yeah. Nebraska, Sweeney, losing to Minnesota at home, quad 3 loss. It feels like Nebraska had one week and a half stretch where they decided to wake up and play well. And now they're just banking on that 1 week and a half stretch in the middle of the Big Ten season to be enough to get them to the tournament when they've played like ass for the last, month and a half, 2 months. I get Nebraska out of my tournament. Get them out of I don't understand how they're a 10 seed. Get them out of my tournament.
Yeah, I think they'll be out tomorrow when the Field 68 guys go through. I think when you look at their resume now, to have resume metrics, right at 50, quality metrics worse than that, I think it's going to be trouble. They also, sneaky yesterday, one of the things that hurt them beyond losing to Minnesota was that their USC home loss torpedoed that down into a quad 3 territory. So that's not great. Look, I just think at the end of the day, in these power conferences, the minimum you need to be doing to get into the tournament is win your home games. And Nebraska has lost a home game to Rutgers, a home game to USC, and a home game to Minnesota. Those aren't against bubble teams. Those are against Big Ten tournament bubble teams. And when you do that, all of a sudden you become a Big Ten tournament bubble team. Nebraska has work to do. It's crazy to say this. Nebraska has work to do to ensure that they're in the Big Ten tournament, let alone the NCAA tournament. So it's a big week ahead. They get an opportunity Tuesday on the road at Ohio State to swing their fortunes back. That'd be a big one against another bubble team. But I think as of today, Nebraska has earned their spot in the college basketball crown.
Nebraska playing Ohio State being a big bubble game makes me want to vomit in my mouth. Come on, man. Neither of those teams deserve to be in the big dance. Give me Xavier over both of them. Hell, give me North Carolina over both of them. I don't care what the resumes are. I don't care about quad ones. Give me North Carolina, Xavier over both of them. At least those teams are still trying.
And one of the craziest things about the Minnesota-Nebraska game was that they were losing by 19. They had to fight back to lose by 2. It was a bad game.
That's a good way to put it, Kenny. They had to fight back to lose by 2. All right, I want to talk about the last 1 seed spot really quick. Do we all agree Houston has put themselves in a spot where as long as they don't do something dumb, they're the 3rd number 1 seed? Are we all on? Anyone disagree?
Not me.
No, we good? Yeah.
I think it's at least possible that another SEC team winds up ahead of them, but I think the committee will more likely than not want to spread them out a little bit. If it's close, I think you give it to Houston. What they've accomplished in the league is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that
they just beat Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati's just whatever anyway. So,
hey, look, Xavier won their biggest game of the season, and then Cincinnati might have had their bubble burst. It was a pretty good day for old Kenny Frease and his his Muskies there on.
But Cincinnati won their Super Bowl. Cincinnati won their Super Bowl this year. So,
Sweeney. All right. So Tennessee beats Alabama. Jemai Mashak has one of the greatest 1 minute stretches I've seen in college basketball in a long time. But that felt like a play-in game for that fourth number 1 seed spot. Is that where you're at? Would you have Tennessee over Alabama and maybe even Florida for that fourth number 1 seed right now?
It's really, really close. I do think the head-to-head result probably matters a little bit, and the fact that they only have the 5 losses, whereas Alabama now has 6. I think tomorrow, I would put Tennessee on the 1 line, but that might be different by Tuesday night because we've got some big ones coming up this week in the SEC. So, I think for now it's a playing game. How long that lasts, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part about the SEC is that so much happens on every night you look up. And by the way, Alabama and Tennessee just played on Saturday. Well, you know what we got on Tuesday night? Florida is playing Alabama. And then you know what Alabama has to do? They got to play Auburn on their last day of the regular season. It just every single night in the SEC, there's a top 10 matchup, and it's awesome, and I love it. All right. We got to get to a break. On the other side, we have our Sunday superlatives. Who had the best performance of the weekend? Who had the worst performance of the weekend? Who had the biggest win of the weekend? We will break all of that down, and then we will get to the afters where you can jump in the chat, fire away, ask us questions. We'll ask anything you guys throw in there. We will answer as long as it doesn't get us canceled. I'll let Sweeney get canceled. I'm not going to let Kenny get canceled. So make sure you jump in the YouTube chat and fire away, ask us some questions. Sunday superlatives coming up next.
Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Humble podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. Bet insurance tokens, odds boosts, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two here or there. Be sure to keep your eye out in the app for the Field of 68 specials that we'll be running throughout the season as well. So go download the BetMGM app to sign up today.
The Sunday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Kevin Sweeney, Kenny Frease, and it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to get into the Sunday superlatives. We're going to be talking about the best wins, the worst losses, the best player performances, and I want to start, Kevin Sweeney, with the best win. Who had the best win of the weekend in college basketball?
I'm going to take Michigan State. I know it's today. I know we had a monster slate yesterday, but the way Wisconsin has been playing for, the better part of 2 months, the way that they handled that early punch, I mean, to me, that was as impressive as anything we saw this weekend. Obviously the Alabama-Tennessee game was a monster for Tennessee, a huge win for their tournament, number 1 seed hope, But, I just think maybe it's just the culmination of a lot of stuff, but I think the Spartans deserve their flowers tonight.
Mm-hmm. Kenny?
Part of me wants to say Illinois because they got your back end stamp of approval, but I can't go away from Xavier, man. I'm as biased as it gets to Xavier, man, and you're going to see that. I mean, the thing for me is I know it's a quad 2 win, but I don't feel like all quad 2 wins are created equal. I think this is more like a quad 1 minus win.
A quad one minus. I like that. I am going to go with Illinois because I think that with the struggles that they have had going on the road and giving a 20-piece to the team that was in first place in the conference in Michigan, it says a whole lot about where this team is, what this team can be, and what their ceiling is. And it's tantalizing, man. You see the talent. When it's good, it is as good as anything in college basketball when it's clicking with Illinois. So I'm back, sipping the Kool-Aid. I'm back on the bandwagon. I'm back in. Illinois is officially back. We're making a run. And yes, I am saying we right now, Trevor Release. I am saying we are back. Illinois is back. Kenny, the worst loss. Who had the most disappointing performance, the worst loss of the weekend?
I mean, there was quite a few of them, but I'm going with Arkansas just because of the expectation that the team had on them at the beginning of the year, and just like feeling like eventually they were going to pick up, and the season just kind of ended with a thud, and the way that they lost that game to the team that they lost to, I think that I got to go with Arkansas.
Yeah. Sweeney?
Yeah, Arkansas. I mean, just a complete lack of toughness, lack of heart. Like, you're going to make missed shots sometimes, but the way they got manhandled around the basket for 40 minutes, I think says a lot about what this group is, especially without Aduthiero. Like, to me, his energy is infectious. He's awesome. I love everything about him. I think the rest of this group, they're guys that rely on making shots for their energy. You don't win a lot of games with guys who rely on making shots for their energy.
Yeah, that's not a great sign. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. Now, I think it's Kansas. I'm going with Kansas for the worst loss of the weekend because of, you're in your own building. You're going up against a team where your game plan works, right? You get the ball to Hunter Dickinson. He's kind of drawn fouls left and right. You got JT Toppin who fouls out of the game. Federico has 4 fouls. Texas Tech is forced to not play their best player for a huge stretch of the second half as you kind of make a run. KJ Adams gets it going. And it was just, once again, everything completely fell apart at the end. And Kansas is doing things that just feel so un-Kansas-like, right? There's so many sloppy mistakes that they make in the final minutes of games. It is baffling to me. Like, there was one possession at the end of this game. I think they were down by 3, and they go to draw up a play, and Zeke Mayo just throws it straight out of bounds as DeJuan Harris is trying to make a cut to get into the play. He just throws it straight out of bounds right at the start of the set and right at the start of the action. And it's all of these things have built up to the point where Bill Self is now having to release statements to try to settle down a fan base that doesn't understand what it's like to not be elite. And Sweeney, I'll give you credit. I think you made a really good point about, continuity is a good thing, but identifying whether or not it's good continuity and the core that you have can win is something that I think I'm sure Bill Self right now was looking in the mirror saying, did I make a mistake deciding that I'm going to run it back with 2 guys that can't shoot around a 5-man that wants to be on the low post. So that was not necessarily the best loss I've ever seen. Texas Tech, though, wreck them, baby. Red Raiders are awesome. I think they can make a Final Four. The best player performance of the weekend, Sweeney. Who you got?
I'm going to give a big shout out to Jemai Mashak's final minute yesterday. I just think cool for a kid like that who for 4 years has done everything.
Roll through it. Tell the people what he actually did, because I don't know how many people realize what he did in that last minute.
Stole them a possession on an offensive rebound, blew up a play defensively that got them the stop, and then gets rewarded with the 3. In 40 seconds. And I might be missing something.
Made the 2 free throws that tied the game when they were down by 2. Yeah.
I love the fact that for 4 years, that dude has done everything to help Tennessee win, and it has been the best stretch of basketball in Tennessee history. And for him in one of his last home games to get a moment like that he will never forget, that Tennessee fans will never forget, in one of the biggest crowds, I think, all season in college basketball, that was just cool, man. I loved that. I'm happy for him. He seems like one of the best culture guys, character guys in college basketball, and cool for him to have a moment like that.
Absolutely. Kenny?
I'm going right back to the Xavier well, baby. I'm taking Dante Maddox, man. Dude, I'm telling you, the way that he came out and played, he was the firecracker that got everything going. And that he was one of the reasons that they were able to come out to that lead. And he didn't have the most points even on Xavier's team, but the way that what that game meant, what he was able to do and come out and really, light that fire for Xavier and get them an early lead with the way he was shooting the ball, the contested shots he was making. I really got to tip my hat to him because he hasn't had the best year. It took him some time to get used to the program and all that. And he's really showing out at the right time of the year.
Yep. I was going to go with Jemai Mashak, and since Sweeney stole it, I am going to pivot here, and I'm going to go with Chucky Hepburn, Louisville point guard, 37 points, 4 boards, 4 assists. He was 6 for 6 from 3. I think he had all 6 threes in the first half, was absolutely unconscious. This is coming a week after he went for 29 against Florida State in another win. He has been, I would say, the second best player in the ACC this season, and I think he is starting to encroach on that first team All-American conversation. I probably would still have Braden Smith, maybe even Cam Jones in front of him at this point over a full body of work, but Chucky Hepburn, you cannot have a first team All-America conversation without mentioning the name Chucky Hepburn somewhere in there for consideration. And I think that's a pretty incredible thing considering where he started, what happened when he left Wisconsin, and kind of how that whole thing is played out at Louisville. They are a fun story, and I will tell you this: I'm rooting for them. I want to see this work out because I think they're a fun team to watch, and I would enjoy seeing them make a Final Four and me be able to rub it in Goodman's face over and over and over and over and over again. That is what actually happened. All right, it is time for the toast of the night. We got about 2 minutes left in the show. So Sweeney, who are you toasting here on this Sunday? Who had the best day? Who had the biggest game? Who had the biggest performance?
Big Nehemiah Turner from Central Arkansas. Conference tournaments are here. How about the freshman big? 37, 11, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. What a day. For a kid that for the first 23 games of the year was averaging 4 points per game. Pretty cool. Cheers to Big Nemo.
Cheers.
Yep.
I'm not going with the Xavier guy this time. I'm going with the Michigan guy. I know that they lost, but Golden, I'm a sucker for reunion stories. His parents, they reunited for the first time in 5 years, and they showed it a couple times. They showed the reunion at the airport. That kind of stuff gets me going. So cheers to Golden and his parents.
Yeah, that was a great moment. That one kind of hit you right in the feels, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back to the ASUN tournament. I'm going with LJ Thomas from Austin P. And I don't know if you guys know what happened with LJ Thomas from Austin P. But he went for 20 points and 6 assists on 9 for 15 shooting, just 2 turnovers, and a 90-69 win, despite the fact that with 5 minutes left in the second half, he threw up all over the court. My man had the flu. He had the norovirus. He had something. He threw up all over the court and still went for 20 points and 6 assists. Kenny, I don't know how many times you went for 20 points and 6 assists after you were throwing up all over the court in college, but my man LJ Thomas did it. And I think he 100% deserves a toast of the night for that. Conference tournament basketball is here, guys. March Madness is here. It does not get any better than the next 36 days. We are on a full-on sprint to determine regular season champions, conference tournament champions, and then the NCAA tournament champion. And we appreciate everyone that's going to be hanging out with us here on the Field of 68. We'll have you every single night from here until the end of the college basketball season to talk about everything you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. So for Kevin Sweeney, for Kenny Frease, my name's Rob Dauster. We'll see you tomorrow night. We're live. It's the afters. Hit the chat.
I'm not getting close to any bear.
My career high on the court is 28.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 Afters. It is the Afters. We are going to be here for about the next 10 to 15 minutes answering any question that you have for us, for myself, for Kevin Sweeney, for Kenny Frease. Get in the YouTube chat, fire away. Hit us with what you want to hit us with. As long as it's not a chair, I feel pretty good about what you guys are going to be hitting us with. So, Dagan, do we have any questions in the chat right now?
We do. We have a good amount. So let's run through these pretty quickly. We'll try to get as many as we can. Since we don't have any other games to talk about, like we normally do on the afters. Aaron wants to know, is Michigan State in the running for a number 1 seed in an NCAA tournament?
Sweeney?
I don't think they're 100% dead, but it's going to be hard to pass all the teams ahead of them at this point. I think a 2 is probably the safe bet.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, right? You beat Michigan at home, and you win the Big Ten tournament, and you got a shot. Like, they probably got to win out and win the Big Ten tournament, and you got a shot, but that would require Tennessee and Florida and these other teams doing a lot of dumb things. And remember, Alabama and Florida play each other on Tuesday, and that win would be better than anything Michigan State will get the rest of the year.
It would also require the committee to care about the games on like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the Big Ten tournament when Michigan State will be playing. Not convinced that actually happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's you're not entirely wrong. Kenny, you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, the SEC, they can beat each other up, but they're still in there for that last 1 seed.
Dagan.
All right, next. This one's from some guy named Trevor, I think located somewhere in Illinois. Funnier tournament result. Illinois making a deep run because they suddenly can't miss, or St. John's losing immediately because they can't make?
Funnier? Probably St. John's losing. Like, I think that would definitely be funnier. I know what Trevor Valise would appreciate more, and that's Illinois suddenly deciding that they can't miss. But, like, the bottom line is they don't have to – what was the line, Sweeney? They don't have to be great.
16-2 when they're 27% from 3 and better.
That's my favorite stat in college basketball right now. I'm sorry, Kenny, I cut you off, man. Go ahead.
No, I mean, St. John's is a weird team because obviously they don't shoot the ball well, but I'm going to be interested to see how the refs are in the NCAA tournament. I mean, the way that they play in the Big East, they play very physical, and you see them get into halftime with 4 fouls. And it's just like, that's just how they play. So the refs, it's that old thing, like they can't call it every time. And, in the NCAA tournament, you come up to a ref that does call it every time. They end up with, 7-8 fouls in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game, which is possible with the way that they play. I wouldn't be surprised to see them have an early exit in the NCAA tournament. That wouldn't shock me at all.
Sweeney?
I'm just going to say that the video compilation of all the takes about Illinois, of people saying it's insane that they shoot this much and whatever, from Trevor, if they could make a run, would legitimately be one of the greatest pieces of content in the history of the college basketball internet. And I have no choice but to root for that outcome.
The funniest part about that stat, and Trevor just made this point, is that it means that there are 11 games this season where a team that shoots more threes than anybody else has shot under 27% from 3. They shoot 400 threes a game, and they make 1 out of every 4 of them. Oh man, that's such a funny stat. Dagan, go ahead.
All right, we'll keep it moving here. William wants to know, if you're a 1 seed, who would you least like to see in round 2? UConn, BYU, Illinois, or Gonzaga?
Ooh.
And I'll also throw in 2 more teams there, because why not? Actually, let's just throw them all in there. Let's just do the whole exercise here. So 8 or 9 seeds we have right now. Creighton, UConn, Illinois, BYU are the 8s. Gonzaga, Vanderbilt, Utah State, New Mexico are the 9s as of Friday.
Ooh.
Who would you least want to see?
Sweeney, you go first.
I think I would play with the numbers and say Gonzaga is the scariest. I know they haven't won the big games, but they're old. They're March tested and experienced, and they're 8th in KenPom. Like, they're going to be like a pick'em in a second round NCAA tournament game against like a Tennessee or something like that. I mean, that's just, I hope the committee keeps them off the 8-9 game, and I think there's a chance of that now. But like, someone is going to be absolutely furious at the committee if they look up and have to play Gonzaga in the second round.
Kenny?
Yeah, I think Gonzaga's a good choice, but I think it would be kind of scary to play Creighton too, to be honest with you. The way that they shoot the ball, I mean, Xavier, that was an anomaly, the Xavier game. They generally shoot the ball better than that, and Kalkbrenner is an absolute force. The way that he's able to play, I mean, I don't know. I think I would say Gonzaga, but I also wouldn't want to see Creighton either.
This might be recency bias, but I really do think that BYU has turned a corner here. It feels like they've figured some things out. They got a lottery pick, potential top 10 pick in Yegor Demon. They've figured out how to kind of get their offense going. They're making threes. Richie Saunders has been really good this season. They went through a stretch where I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but it was like 3 straight games where they scored 90-plus points. They made 12-plus threes, and they had fewer than 12 turnovers. Did that for 3 straight games, and they're the only Division I team in this century that has done it in the 2000s. And then they hold West Virginia to 56 points last night. I think BYU, they've won 10 of their last 12 games. I think that they're peaking at the right time. I would not want to see them. I don't want to see Illinois either. Right now we have it projected as a potential second-round game between Alabama and Illinois, and I think Illinois could definitely win that game. I know they what was it? They kind of got beat up the first time they played, right? But I think that Illinois can win that game.
BYU is 9th in T rank since January 15th, just for a stat.
Yeah.
Like they're playing like an elite team right now.
Also, another note on BYU, depending on where they are and what pod they're in, they could be lower down to seeds. We could be looking at a double-digit BYU seed because they can't play on Sundays. So just be aware of that as well for all you people out there as well. So next question, ZM wants to know, and if for those that watched last night, Rob already answered this question, but we're going to make him do it again. How many teams realistically can make a Final Four?
I went through this last night. All right, we'll go through the seed ranks and just tell me if you think who can and can't realistically make a Final Four. Number 1 seeds: Auburn, Duke, Alabama, and Houston. All can make it, right?
Yes.
Yep. 2 seeds: Wisconsin, Tennessee, Michigan State, and Florida. The only one I would not have on there is Wisconsin. I'm not entirely sold on Wisconsin.
I just think they can make a Final Four. I think obviously matchups dependent, but I wouldn't rule out them making the Final Four. I'm not convinced they could win 6. Because I don't know if they can beat Duke or Auburn, but if they get a good draw, I think they can.
All right, so we either have 7 or 8 there. 3 seeds: Texas A&M, St. John's, Kentucky, and Michigan. I'm going to go with St. John's as the only team on the 3 line that I think could realistically get to the Final Four. I'm not sold on Texas A&M. Kentucky is they're not healthy, and Michigan I think is the 1 seed in those top 4 that I think is the most likely to lose in the first round of the tournament. I'm kind of a Michigan fader at this point. I don't know if you guys agree with any of that.
St. John's is a very weird team for me in the tournament because I've always been a type of person that says that defense is much more consistent than offense, and the way that they play, I think that they can probably beat anybody, but it's just I think it really comes down to how the games are called. If the games are called and they're getting a lot of fouls called, it could be a problem for them.
All right, so here's my take, Kenny. And this is why I'm a believer in St. John's. I think that they are the best team in the country at maximizing their possession advantage. And what I mean by that is the forcing turnovers and getting offensive rebounds. They're going to get more shots than anybody else that they face. And I know that they like the 3-point shooting is a real thing, but I think that both Kadari and RJ Lewis have proven the ability to be like, I don't know if there's a stat for elite crunch time shot makers, right, but those guys are both elite when it comes to being able to get to their spot and rise up and make a jump shot from like 12 feet. I don't know if there's anybody in college basketball better at getting to 10 feet from the rim, raising up over a point guard, and knocking down a short jump shot than Kadari Richmond. RJ Lewis has made a ton of big shots this year, and I trust the combination of the defense, the extra possessions, Rick Pitino, and 2 guys that can make big-time shots. I think that they're probably like lower down on that list for Final Four favorites, but you give me those 3 things and I'll ride with it. I think they can win 4.
The thing that's weird to me about Kadari Richmond is it feels like he can score literally any time he wants to, but he'll end the game with like 12 points just because he doesn't feel like it or something. I don't know. Like it just seems like he can put people on his shoulder, get to the rim, finish through contact. I mean, it's a weird dynamic because he is very good, but his numbers don't really show it all the time.
So what you just said, that description right there, Kadari, is why there are so many Seton Hall fans and Syracuse fans that have CTE from banging their head against the wall and getting concussions watching Kadari Richmond play.
Yeah.
Sweeney, what do you got?
Yeah, I was gonna second that. Look, I think the thing with the St. John's tournament talk is I worry it'll be harder for them to come back in games the way that they have in conference play. Like, you think of the Xavier game, the Providence game. Like, I think it's gonna be harder for them to deal with the game pressure in those moments. So it's gonna be important that they start fast. But at the same time, like, they're probably the hardest team in the country to come back against. Like, if they can punch people in the mouth, like, I just don't know how you rally, because you're not stringing together 3, 4, 5 straight trips with scores. So I think so much of this team's March destiny is going to be determined in the first 10 minutes of games, and whether they can be the team that's on the offensive if they're trying to play from behind and feeling all that game pressure.
All right, let's do the 4 seeds real quick. Texas Tech, Arizona, Iowa State, and Missouri. I would say Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Missouri are all capable of getting to a Final Four. I don't know where you guys stand. I'm not in on Arizona right now. Sweeney?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I might be crazy, but I think all 4 of them can. I mean, I love that group of teams, because I think all of those teams have had a point in the season where they have felt like that is a team that could maybe win a national championship. Right. And now, again, like, are any of them going to be playing that way March 20th? I don't know yet. Like, we'll see. I think Texas Tech is certainly trending that way. I think Mizzou has at points really looked that way. That's why Iowa State, obviously, early in the year hasn't been good lately, but I thought really bounced back well yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, that's a really strong 4-13 group. And I wouldn't be shocked if I'm a 1 seed and I have to play one of those teams to get to the Elite Eight, I'm not happy about it. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm Duke and I have to play Texas Tech in the Sweet 16, like, that's scary to me with how Texas Tech is playing right now.
Yep. Kenny, I'm sorry I cut you off earlier.
No, I mean, Sweeney brought it up earlier about just the matchups that you get in the tournament, because when you're going, especially the second game of the weekend, you have that quick turnaround time. I mean, it really just depends on how well you're able to prepare for the team that you have to play against. I mean, I know that you said that you're out on Michigan, but I think that Michigan is a really weird team to play the second game. If they make it through the first round, getting to that, Saturday or Sunday game, they're a weird team to play because you have to deal with 2 7-footers that are playing all over the court. So, like, I think that they could be a tough matchup on a 2-day turnaround time. So, like, that for me, that's really what it comes down to, how it shakes out in the draw.
Yep. All right. Clemson, Purdue, Marquette, St. Mary's. Any of them can you see being a Final Four team? I'm out on all 4 for the record.
Yeah.
Am I crazy for thinking about Clemson?
No, not at all.
Like, I just think because the league is so bad, we haven't, like, properly appreciated how good they've been. Like, they lost a triple overtime game to Georgia Tech. Without that, they wouldn't have lost in 2 months. Yeah. Like, it's stupid how good they've been. The bigs have been phenomenal, and Chase Hunter, like, to me, has a sneaky All-American case. I know I'm doing some TOPR right now, but I mean, I think this group is really dangerous and has the March experience, which I think is underrated. Like, the fact that they went through it last year, went to an Elite Eight. Like, I will not be shocked if this Clemson team makes it on.
Yeah, I think they're more of an Elite Eight team than a Final Four team. But I don't hate it. I think that they're the one out of that group that I like the most. 6 seeds: UCLA, Oregon, Maryland, Kansas. 7 seeds: Mississippi State, Memphis, Ole Miss, Louisville. We talked about the 8-9 teams. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think I would say there's 12 that I would have in that that capable of making a Final Four tier. So, Dagan, what else we got?
I've got one more for you guys. The classic question of give me a mid-major team that not only can make a run in their conference tournament, but can also make a run in the NCAA tournament.
Sweeney, you're the mid-major aficionado here. Give me a team. And I don't want this, like, I don't want UC San Diego. Don't hit me with Drake. Like, don't say McNeese. I'm giving you time to think right here. Don't hit me with one like a Liberty. Don't tell me Boise. Like, give me a real mid-major here that is a little bit off the radar that you think. I know. I'm just saying. I'm trying to give Sweeney some time to come up with something here while he's thinking. You can see Kenny's over here scratching his beard, like, what the fuck am I going to say here, guys?
Well, I was gonna say Drake, and then
yeah. You're allowed to say Drake. You're allowed. You can say Drake.
I do think UC San Diego is on another level, but my team that I do think I should highlight is High Point. I mean, this is a group with a top 25 offense per KenPom. They have like legit high major talent. Like, you look at their roster, a lot of these guys belong at a higher level, and Alan Huss has done a phenomenal job of accumulating some of the best talent at that level. They're 26-5. Their pick and roll offense is unbelievably hard to guard. And I think they have the size and athleticism to not get overwhelmed in one of these matchups. So that's probably a 13 seed that I could absolutely see winning a game, maybe 2 games in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Kenny, you got something for us?
I was going to say Drake before you brought all that up, and just because I've watched them play a couple games this year, and they have been dominant when I've watched them play. Like, they're just putting teams in the ground. So, I mean, if I'm making my bracket, I would probably be putting them, maybe to the Sweet 16, just making some noise in the tournament. But the tournament's such a weird thing, and even trying to sit here and talk about the teams that I feel like are going to go far, like, it's difficult to because I've been a part of it, man. I've been a part of the tournament, and we end up in the second weekend playing against Lehigh, and like, we're thinking we're going to have to play Duke, and like, it's such a weird time, and the way that people handle the pressure and all that stuff. So it's difficult.
All right, I have 2 I'm going to throw at you guys, and I want your opinions on this. One of them is Santa Clara. I think Santa Clara has size, they have length, they have athleticism, they have a bunch of guys that can shoot, and they got a couple guys that I think will end up playing in the NBA at some point. I think Adama Alpha Ball is a guy that has very real, find a way to be able to get on a roster somewhere potential. And I think that they shook off a rough start to the season and been pretty good in WCC play. So if they got to win, obviously the WCC title, which means beating probably Gonzaga and St. Mary's. So it's a big ask, but I think if they get there, they're not a team that you want to see. The other one is Chattanooga. And when it comes to teams that pull off some of these upsets, I always look to teams that have really, really good guards. And I love Honor Huff. And I love Trey Bonham, and I think that what Dan Earl has built there at Chattanooga is something where they got guys that can get hot, they can make shots, and the Southern Conference, you go 15-3 in a mid-major league, and people kind of look at it and say, yeah, well, it's whatever. UNC Greensboro is a really good program. Samford, we saw what they did last year, really good program. Brooks Savage has East Tennessee State rolling. Furman is a really, really good program, 23-8 on the season. They finished in 5th in the SoCon. So I think that Chattanooga winning that league should tell you something about that team and that program. So those are my 2 kind of off the radar ones here. So listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. We're going to be here every night for you for the next 36 nights until the end of the college basketball season, and somebody is crowned. And keep it here, man. Lock it in. Subscribe everywhere that you listen to podcasts, everywhere that you watch podcasts. Follow us here, because we are going to be pumping out more content than is feasible, is imaginable, and is probably advised by any medical professional. So for Kevin Sweeney, for Kenny Frease, for our producer Dagan Hughes, and for a guy who has had one of the best days of his life watching his Illini win by 20 in Ann Arbor, Trevor Valise. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, 11 o'clock.